Alright guys, and welcome to the 56th episode of Below the Bar.
In this episode, expect to find out why being the England manager is a poisoned chalice, how surviving an assassination attempt secured Donald Trump another term in the White House,
And why using gatekeeping jargon is the hallmark of the insecure individual.
Let's get into it.
Hello, welcome back to the pod. We are just going to run through a segments episode today. So if you are a new listener, we do sometimes do segments to keep the pod sort of structured. So we're going to run through them. We've kept them kind of current event-y-ish, haven't we?
Yeah, so we're filming this on a beautiful sunny Friday morning, and this will be in your ear holes on Monday morning if you're a loyal listener.
22nd?
Oh, you've jumped the gun there. You've gone into dates.
22nd,
don't do dates. Yeah. Yeah, so you'll be listening to this on a Monday, so this is as kind of up-to-date and topical as we get round here.
Yeah, because it doesn't happen a lot.
It doesn't happen a lot.
So we're going to cover some pertinent points, I think, within the news. Lots been happening.
Yeah, and we've creatively weaved them into our existing segments. So.
As the geniuses we are. You know, what's the plural for geniuses? Is it geniuses?
Geni.
Is it actually?
I don't know.
Sounds right, doesn't it?
Lexi.
The
Japanese Mercedes.
Japanese Mercedes, yeah. Anyway, that's like 3 minutes in, already got a partridge reference.
Yeah, that's always a good start when you were
off to a flyer.
Get a partridge reference in there early. Yeah. Let them know you're there.
Let them know you're there, and you lost 60% of the audience.
Well, speaking of football, start as you mean to go on.
Yeah.
We'll do underrated, overrated. It's either underrated.
You've charmed me.
Or it's overrated.
Well, that was fucking dreadful.
Which is none other than the now sadly departed or happily departed,
depending on how you look at it.
Depending on your viewpoint. Gareth Southgate.
Sir Gareth.
So underrated, overrated. Gareth Southgate's England tenure.
Yeah. Okay. It's an interesting one. It's obviously all the news at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, so, and people are probably fed up of talking about it, but ultimately...
we're going to join the train.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
People like it.
Let's make some more of it.
Let's make more of it. Here's another
partridge reference.
Try and get as many
5 minutes in.
Try and get as many as we can in.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched Alan Partridge, you will be confused at this point.
This episode will be lost on you, so
yeah,
might as well stop listening.
Right, that's good. What's your initial thoughts if we just take underrated, overrated, just one of those answers, and then we'll delve in?
Right, I'll try and be as objective as I can here. So, objectively, right, I think Gareth Southgate left the England team in a better position than when he took charge. So, by that measure, I think he's probably a success. But as to whether that means he's underrated or overrated is a different question.
What do you think the general consensus is?
I think he was kind of underrated and overrated in equal measure. Because it seemed to be a bit like Brexit, like it seemed to equally divide the nation. Because there was the love affair camp, wasn't there? That seemed to think that he couldn't do wrong, no matter how obvious kind of like his tactical ineptitude was.
Yeah.
But then equally there were people that seemed to, whatever he did, he couldn't.
I think generally, if you're England manager, you can't do a lot right. To be honest, there's always going to be. Like, everyone was like, "Oh, start Trent." He started Trent, and Trent was shit. And then everyone was like, "Oh, why is he starting Trent in midfield?" There's loads of that. So I think it's difficult to do the right thing when you're in that spot because you're just under the spotlight. And also, there's the issue of tremendously fickle fans.
Football is notoriously fickle sport anyway, isn't it? But I think that's exemplified
when you're in the national
national team manager, because it means so much to so many people, and then you can't please everyone, so ultimately someone's going to be left disappointed. But that's where it comes back to, like, if you don't have a clear identity in a system, then you're always going to be culpable for that kind of criticism, because if you can put forward like a philosophy and stick to it, then if people criticise you, you've always got that to fall back on. It's like, well, we're playing a certain way, X player doesn't fit that system or he's not doing his role.
Yeah.
That's why. But if you don't have that clear identity, then it becomes personal, because it's like, well, why did you drop him? Because there's not a clear system, so you obviously just must not like him.
Yeah. Like Jack Grealish.
So he made a rod for his own back there, really. Because like Grealish, instead of being able to come out and say, oh, well, we play...
Playing 2 10s, so maybe,
it doesn't really
no
fit.
space for him
It's
or
clearly like, well, he's not Southgate's favourite, so that's why he's dropped
the
him.
fact that he took Eze and not fucking Grealish is absolutely wild, by the way. I know Grealish hasn't played much football, but he's fucking unbelievable when he wants to be.
And this comes back to the next point of, like, has he underachieved? Because if you think of the players that didn't get into the England squad for the Euros,
I think that I don't think that's an accurate line of thinking, because I believe that the golden generation back in the day
they underachieved.
was almost equally as talented. Like, the squad that they had was insane. A couple of the squads, to be fair, we've had over the England period have been really, really good. It's not like England teams of old have been shit. We've had like Rooney, fucking Beckham, Gerrard. We had the best players. But they've underachieved. This team are obviously really, really good, but it's not like they're the first. It's the first time we've ever had talent in the England team.
So I was listening to Peter Crouch talk about this on his podcast the other day. Not a plug, but it is quite entertaining. And because he was obviously part of that England setup. Like, he probably wasn't one of the prominent mainstays of that team, but he was kind of in and out. Obviously hard to get in a team ahead of like Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney.
Yeah.
But he was saying that he thinks that team was... The team that he played in was just as good, potentially slightly better than the team that we have now, but the competition was far better in his era.
Well, Germany were really, really good.
Because if you think about the German team, they had like
Spanish team.
Philipp Lahm, Podolski, like Muller.
Still got Muller, which is mental.
And then the Spanish team of that era was absolutely
David
mental.
Villa and
arguably kind of like
Xavi
the best national team of all time. The Brazilian team that rocked up to World Cups with like fucking Ronaldinho, R9.
Yeah, you're right. Obviously, the competition was really, really good, and we seem to be.
I think it stems from a frustration of like there might never be a better opportunity to win a national, like an international tournament than there is.
Well, also, I mean, look at the runs we've had. Obviously, that's another point, isn't it? The fact that we haven't really played anyone until the finals, and then when we get to the final, we lose.
It's fascinating. It's like such a philosophical.
It's a topsy-turvy debate, isn't it? Because, like you say, like if you look at it purely objectively in terms of how far we've got in tournaments relative to how far we've got in the past, obviously it's an insane achievement. 2 finals, 1 semi-final, like ridiculous. But at the same time, if you then delve a little bit deeper and like unpack another layer, you've got the runs we went on, which was pretty easy. The teams we've really not beaten, because if you think like France, decent team, lost. Spain, decent team, lost. Italy, decent team, lost.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't really beat anyone half
that
decent.
Next step, isn't it?
We beat Germany, but they were shit.
The more I think about it now, actually, obviously, I haven't really given it much thought since the final, so I tried to etch it from my memory.
Yeah.
But the more I think about it now, actually, I think Southgate should have moved on after the last Euros final when we lost to Italy. Because if he couldn't beat that Italian team at Wembley, having gone 1-0 up after 2 minutes.
On pens. And then he, to be fair, was at fault there, because he brought 3 players on and 2 players on that hadn't kicked a ball and really weren't penalty takers relative to the rest of the fucking...
That's what I mean, and I don't blame him for not stepping back, but I think the FA at that point should have recognised that, like, if he couldn't do it then, he probably was never going to do it. So, like, with that point, they probably should have took the plunge and thought, who can take us to that next step?
Yeah, I mean...
And lo and behold, we did the exact same thing and then
bottled it.
Arguably gone a step back.
Well, I think Spain were a better team than that Italian team were.
Yeah,
to be honest. But I think about it now, bringing Jadon Sancho on to take a penalty is mental, mate. I would never have billed him as a penalty taker or a good striker of the ball or whatever.
I mean, in fairness to Southgate, he has learnt from his mistakes.
Yeah, because this penalty shootout was insane.
I mean, like 5 out of 5, you can't fault it. They literally...
And they were so sure.
He brought them on with kind of time to spare so they could get up to...
he's learned
get up to speed with the match. But, like, the last Euros, the more you unpack it, was a car crash. Like, we went 1-0 up after 2 minutes. Like Italy are all over the place, and we just sit back and invite pressure.
Well, that's what we did against Spain when we scored that
Yeah, that
Palmer
when
goal.
Cole Palmer scored that absolute worldie, and I thought, to be fair,
Tides had turned.
I was like, the tides have turned now. Like England have got a track record of kind of getting their tails up when they find a way back into the game. We'll kick on now.
I thought the same. I thought we'd at least get to extra
And
time.
fucking 4 minutes later or whatever.
Carl Walker was so at fault.
Carl Walker.
Terrible,
I saw a damning compilation on
Same.
TikTok of Carl Walker's Euro highlights.
Low lights.
Yeah, doesn't reflect because
He had a shit tournament. Him.
because the argument throughout the tournament, which always went uncontested, even from me to be fair, was, oh well, Carl Walker's a better defender than Trent, so he gets in the team on those grounds.
Yeah.
But having watched his highlight reel, so to speak, of the tournament, I would argue that he's not.
Well, also, I mean, so from those just defensive performances, obviously in the past he's been really, really good, but from just the Euros, he was pretty average, really, at best, and a lot of the time at fault for some of the goals. And then going forward, he's not amazing. Yes, he's really, really quick, but he's not amazing. And his final ball was terrible. His passing was horrendous. Like, I don't know what's happened to him in the last couple of months, because he's a Pep Guardiola player. He should be able to move the ball around and pass and shit. And he just kept giving the ball away, and it's fucking mental.
He
mate.
just always seems to have a get out clause with his fucking speed.
Oh,
he's just a speed merchant,
to be honest,
isn't he?
his speed is ridiculous. Some of the time, like 1 or 2 times, he did save us with that, and intercepting things and just being. But if he'd have been a fraction quicker on that fucking Spain goal against Cucurella, the cunt.
But anyway, I mean, you can unpack this until the cows come home, but ultimately we've lost again, and now Southgate's gone. So where do we go from here?
Yeah, well, it's got to be.
So which camp are you in actually? So are you in the get a foreign manager with pedigree in, which is where we've gone in the past supposedly with people like Fabio Capello, and it's not worked.
He didn't have that much pedigree.
But I would argue, well, he did at club level in Italy, but that's not really. How does that transfer over to international football in England?
Yeah, or any football for that matter.
So are you in the get an international manager with pedigree in? So like Guardiola and Klopp have been mentioned, or are you in the kind of like the what I like to call the Brexit mentality of keep them English?
No, I think unless it's Guardiola or Klopp, they've got to be English, because those two managers are a league in their own, aren't they? Like you can't turn those down just on the basis that they're not English. Because I'm not being funny. If we had Pep with that team,
but this is what I mean. I'm a big fan of Tom Garrett, right? But I watched one of his kind of like TikToks yesterday, and he put himself in the England only camp, which I think is a very self-limiting belief.
Yeah, I agree. We've got shit managers, really.
Because if someone like Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp comes sniffing for the England job just because like they want to pop at winning a World Cup, you throw the kitchen sink at getting them on board. Because honestly, if you get a Jurgen Klopp or a Pep Guardiola managing that England team, you're fucking wiping the floor clean with everyone.
Yeah, 100%. Because they're like attacking football. They play almost similar to what they do with the clubs. Obviously, Trent to then start. If Klopp was playing.
So like Pep Guardiola are arguably so good at managing football teams that he's ruined football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like,
now everyone's trying to.
So
copy
you get his tactical genius on board with England, you win a World Cup. Jurgen Klopp, arguably one of the best kind of like man managers, player motivators in sport, let alone football. You get him in that dressing room
behind Jude Bellingham.
And also he's got a track record of winning, like punching well above his weight and winning silverware with team. So like if you actually
give him a team that's decent,
give him a decent team.
I think the only difference is, or the only caveat to maybe that is, and the thing you've got to make sure of, is I do think the players were mega behind Southgate, regardless of how shit he was tactically or anything like that. I think they really, really wanted to win for him. So you've got to recreate that somehow. So if you do get a good manager in that's just a bit of a knobhead, or maybe the players don't gel with him or whatever, I think that could be an issue with that group of players. They'll be like, oh, fucking hell, well, Gareth wasn't like this. Or, that could be an issue.
But again, like, I don't think you have that issue with like a Klopp or a Guardiola, because immediately players want to play for them.
I mean, they get respect.
They're just bought into the process.
Yeah.
But you are right, you do. So like, another foreign manager that was mentioned was Pochettino.
Oh, that'd be shit.
Who I was not keen on, because ultimately, he's not fucking won anything.
And he's not far off Southgate's style of play.
Yeah,
Just take the gaff out a little bit.
Well, yeah, like, he played kind of like attacking. Well, he played like counter-attacking football with
counter-attacking.
Tottenham. But again, we don't want that. We
Because
want
counter-attacking means sit back.
yeah. We want the possession for once.
Oh yeah. Well,
So then the England names. Then let's go through them.
Eddie Howe.
The front runners are Eddie Howe and Graham Potter, aren't they?
Frank Lampard's been mentioned.
That's a war crime.
Steven Gerrard.
Whoever put that in a newspaper column should be sent to The Hague.
Those
Because
two can fuck off.
even kind of circulating those kind of rumours is dangerous. Because if they catch wind,
Which they could do. Some people have been saying it's a good idea. I think Gary Lineker said that he'd be confident with if Frank Lampard got it.
this comes back to the fucking
Give Gary Lineker it. He'd be sick.
with all of the coaching badges that he doesn't have. But
Likeable. Then.
This comes back to my pet peeve from the other week, about how the media have a bit of a loving with certain individuals.
Yeah.
And they let their kind of like bias
Yeah.
cloud their judgment. But it's like, oh yeah, Frank's a good lad. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that he's going to do a good job with the England man. Just because you don't want to insult your mate on national television.
Gareth was a good lad.
Yeah, he's a good lad. And look where it got us.
Yeah, exactly. Nowhere. So then what are you saying, overrated or underrated?
Gareth Southgate, I think, probably, if I was to quantum leap back to 2016 when he took over and I knew what I knew now about where we'd end up, I'd probably say massively underrated. Because I don't think anyone really...
No one would have billed it as happening.
No one
like it has.
no one expected us to end up where we did when he took over.
Yeah.
But I think, obviously, in hindsight, which is all well and good, I think
After
a lot of people seem to think that he's overrated.
I think... So I saw one of the team, basically, that he inherited. It's fucking mental, mate. It's so shit. Like, it's like Dele Alli and fucking all these
Washed
gaff players. Like that fucking Kieran Dyer and, like, who the fuck are they?
Kieran
if you look,
Dyer, Eric Dyer.
That's the one.
Kieran
Well, exactly.
We might as well have been Kieran. Might as well have been Kieran Dyer.
Eric Dyer, yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah,
I think now, look, if you look at the team he's got, and actually, I think he was partially responsible for, farming a little bit of that talent ages ago.
Yeah, because he was the
England
former
setup.
under-21.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't really just say, oh, he's been lucky with this team. Not really. Like, he's actually, in some ways, cultivated a bit of it. But I think he's a little bit
Underrated.
Underrated by some people, anyway.
Because if you think he got hired off the back of that Iceland defeat at the Euros...
Yeah, it was in fucking turmoil then, wasn't it?
If you could travel back in time and tell England fans, right, so in 8 years' time...
You'll have been to two finals.
You will have gone to a World Cup semi and 2 European finals.
And been a hair away from winning it.
Yeah, they would have bitten your hand off.
100%. And if you've seen that video of Rooney leaving the pitch at Iceland... he's like saying something to the fans because the fans were so.
Oh, that was the World.
Was it Iceland?
That was World Cup 2010.
Oh, was
it? Was
it?
Like nice to see your own fans booing you or
Right,
something.
that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was when they stunk the gaff out against
Can't remember what.
Tunisia. I think it was like 0-0 or 1-1 one of the group games.
Okay, yeah.
And he made that comment.
So I mean that just gives you an idea of how
in the past the England,
terrible
the England
relationship was between the two.
Yeah.
Between the team and the fans. But I mean, yeah, like you say, if you'd have said he's going to get you to where he has done, it'd be mad. And the whole feeling around the England team's changed, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
So yeah,
like the possibility of winning is actually on the it's in the conversation,
as opposed to just a distant.
And actually, before I watched the Euro '96 documentary, the fact that there's a documentary made about us getting to a semi-final is fucking mental, isn't it? And then when you think about, okay, we've got to 2 finals now and a World Cup semi, it's like, well, that's decent, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're gonna make fucking a series about that.
To be honest, whoever does succeed, Southgate's got big boots to fill.
100%.
Because now the expectation is win. It's not enough to actually get to the final anymore because Southgate did that.
The funny thing is, the public opinion of Southgate will be dictated by now what this new manager does.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's a double-edged sword because a lot of people are calling for his head and they're cheering when he's gone. If God forbid we
get a Frank Lampard.
Either way. So if we get Guardiola, who by most people's standards is kind of like
then the expectation will
the
be
godfather of modern football, but he can't win with that England team. People look back on Gareth Southgate
think
like
he was a
saint.
god.
Like a saint.
Yeah.
Like I now look back on the new Labour years of Tony Blair. You know, you didn't know what you had with education.
Always the politics. But I think...
But then equally, if the FA stink the gaff out like they always do, and bring in a Frank Lampard because he's mates with everyone at the FA,
and then he just never gets out of a group.
Never gets out of a group, but they stick with him because he's a good lad.
Yeah.
And you've got Gary Lineker sucking him off and brown nosing him on national television, having just lost to Slovenia to knock us out of the next.
Then
World
everyone
Cup.
will be like, oh, "Fucking hell, Gareth Southgate was a genius."
Yeah, bring back Southgate.
Yeah,
It'll
it'll be that. So it's calling for him again, but he's in the south of France, sunning himself.
with his fucking £5 million a year that he's had for the last 8 years.
Yeah, mad that.
So it'll be interesting to see.
For doing 8 games a year.
But we're moving into the World Cup cycle now. 2 years off the World Cup in the US and Canada.
I think the good thing is most of these players are still going to be better in 2 years.
It wasn't, so like when Croatia beat us in the semi at the World Cup.
That was their last thing on it.
And then went on to lose to France. That was their last hurrah, that team.
Yeah, because they're shit now.
Because they are shit now. Our team, on paper, should still be getting better.
Yeah, because probably next World Cup we won't have Kyle Walker. Probably we'll have Trent. Which is, I think, a good thing.
Which is sensational.
To be fair, defence is pretty young for the rest of it.
Yeah, Gay, he's young. Stones is getting on a bit.
Not really. They're for a centre-back.
He's got another tournament in him.
Well, fucking Pepe is 41. And
That's what I mean. Yeah, he's not like last chance. And then obviously all of our attacking.
Yeah, Foden, Bellingham, like all of them.
And then
Kane can fuck off.
Kane's finished.
Honestly, and this probably is inaccurate. Really, I don't think I've ever seen him play well for England. I mean, obviously he scores a shitload of goals. But I've actually never seen him play.
He's a stat padder for England. And I don't want to get into this because I could do a full episode on my position on Harry Kane in the England team. But your defence of someone maintaining their place in the starting 11 at a major international tournament can't be that he's the record goal scorer and that he's the captain. Because ultimately, if he's not turned up for the tournament you're actually playing in yet, and you're 5 games in, he shouldn't be in the starting 11.
He's not even
I don't care what he did in a fucking qualifier game against Estonia 5 years ago.
And the fact he can score a penalty.
Yeah, the fact that he scored 4 penalties in qualifying 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. What's he doing now? Ollie Watkins had about 10 minutes of game time.
And he made more of an impact than him in 4 or 5 games.
Exactly.
It's insane, but I really don't get it. Obviously, it's the captain thing, isn't it? Dropping your captain's a big...
You can't drop your captain. Well, you can.
In a final, that is a massive statement. That wouldn't... Southgate would not have dared to do that. I mean, he should have.
But he made a rod for his own back by not dropping him earlier in the tournament.
Well,
so
exactly,
it's if you'd have normalised that, 2 or 3 games in...
Because he's not fit.
No, because he clearly was He was either physically or mentally... Just wasn't
burnt
sharp.
out.
Yeah, it was burnt out.
Anyway, we'll have to move on because we could do about 4 hours on the Euros, can't we?
Yeah.
Yes, so helmet of the week.
Helmet of the week.
We're going to build this as the Trump assassination.
Because you can, depending on where you sit on the issue, you can frame it from different ways. So... By all accounts, whichever way you look at it, it was a shit show.
Yeah, my helmet of the week around this topic is the Secret Service.
Yeah, and I don't know where I stand on it, to be honest, because obviously you can't kind of publicly endorse assassination.
Well, that's it. Have you heard of Destiny?
No.
I don't know what his actual name is. Obviously,
I'm sorry, Destiny. But that's an immediate ick. If a grown man's decided to call himself Destiny.
Yeah, he's a cunt. So he was on Piers Morgan the other day, and he's this liberal... libtard, and he was actually saying he doesn't condemn it at all. It's fine, the Conservatives have brought it on themselves, basically saying that. I was like, you're just a cunt. So there is a element of the internet that does think that, and he's got a massive following, massive voice on the Liberal side.
Well, let's start to unpack this then, because there's so many different ways
much
that you
to
can
unpack it. We might have to just leave it here.
So what I'll say initially is that obviously you can't advocate assassination attempts. No one deserves to be executed on national television. However, Trump's political approach is very confrontational. That is populism. You do rub people up the wrong way.
It's polarisation.
So if you're that tribal in your political approach and you basically talk about people being enemies quite openly, eventually it's going to come back to bite you on the arse.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that only accounts for the fringes of society, doesn't it? Because obviously, for 99.9% of people, they just think, oh, he's a bit of a dick. They don't think, oh, he's a dick, so I'm going to shoot him.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. You've got to be careful because if you frame everything, if you're kind of like
combative,
if your political rhetoric to everything is us versus them, eventually the them are going to want to have their say. So, and you can't,
or are going to want to shut you up.
And especially in America, you can't trust people because they are armed.
Yeah, everyone's got access to a gun. And fundamentally, your security detail, it leaves a lot to be desired.
So I think one helmet could be Trump himself for, effectively kind of rubbing people up the wrong way in America for a long time.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't, no one...
But I mean, equally, you could talk about Boris Johnson doing the same thing. Like, he's just as...
Oh yeah,
just as
polarising. That is the populist approach. It's us versus them.
Yeah, but
like in England, you cannot. He
might get like stabbed or something.
We have a much better track record with assassination attempts because we don't have the readily available access to firearms.
No,
but,
exactly.
You play with fire,
you might get burnt.
You might get burnt. So there's
what I will say is that there is that element. Now this has happened and Trump's been shot in the ear and he's obviously alive. This is the best thing that could have happened to him politically, provided he survives the next 4 months and doesn't get shot again, which could happen.
Honestly, there's probably somewhere. There's someone out there seething that bloke's fucked up.
100%. Like there's probably gonna be more, either either attempts or the Secret Service will probably like arrest people for trying or whatever. I don't know if people get close now because there'll be mad security on it. It'll be almost impossible now. But I think that'll have just given people the idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine how many people are in America, like you say, a lot of them will absolutely hate Trump. And they're like, oh, it's fucking possible now, Like, it gives you that.
But then, like you were just about to explain now, he's almost certainly going to be the next president of the United States. So the next helmet could feasibly be the guy that shot him, not least because he missed, but because... He intended to stop Trump ever being president again. And now he's basically guaranteed that 100%. He will be the next president.
That fucking photo with the fist bump is so iconic. Like that, any like floating voters are now just Trump's. Because Biden's so unimpressive with everything. Well, you think, well, fucking hell, he's just been shot. He's like 80 years old and he's like reacting this way. What a geezer. So I think that will sway so many people that now there's no way the Democrats can get in.
So, like, history tells us in the States, whenever there's kind of like an assassination or an assassination attempt on a president, their polling skyrockets because it's something you can immediately get behind because it does create like an us versus them. So, like, Kennedy's approval rating skyrocketed after. I mean, he was dead, but like people
not
thought
much
a lot.
Used to him. Like,
but then when they tried
Reagan,
when they tried to assassinate Reagan in the 80s, like I think he basically peaked in terms of popularity after he was shot. So like, if you're gonna basically that guy, if you were gonna do it, make sure you've got to do it properly, and he hasn't. And
also, how the fuck did he not? This is some.
Well, no, we need to touch on the Biden being so weak as well.
Okay.
Because it on the one hand, you've got Trump who's literally just basically diced with death and come out the other side dancing.
Basically 50 Cent.
3 days later, fucking Sleepy Joe has to self-isolate because he's got COVID.
Yeah. And again,
honestly,
the floating voters are like...
I'm just going to think, right, so Trump has literally dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Immediate connotations of kind of strong, capable individual. Joe Biden self-isolated because he's been knocked out by a virus.
It's also a response and reaction to that getting shot, basically. There's loads of people who've commented going, look, the amount of... The percentage of the population that would react in that specific way to being shot is... minuscule.
Yeah.
Like, most people are fucking, like, flapping, scared, ducking for cover. He's, like, he's punching... He's actually stepped again above the pedestal, being like, yeah, sick.
He's such a good communicator, though. You could see in his eyes, he knew that he had to kind of... capitalise on that moment with some kind of photo opportunity. Because, obviously, the Secret Service... are obviously I don't know what the technical term is, but I like to call it meat shielding him.
Yeah, that's
because basically they take the bullet if there's another shot fired, and they're obviously trying to keep him low, below their headline, And he's obviously trying to kind of penetrate that so he can be visible to cameras, which is what
it's mad. Well, to the crowd. What's also there's so many layers to this, but like the guy who took that photo is undeterred by the fact he could be shot either by the Secret Service or by another shooter.
Yeah,
he's just up with his camera. So imagine you've got obviously now Secret Service on high alert. You've got some black thing in your hand. You're stood up pointing it at the president. Yeah. It's like that is mental. The fact that he didn't get shot first of all, or didn't like think he was going to get shot. So he got that photo angling up with Trump there with the fucking flag behind him. It's mental, mate. And then obviously there's another layer to that.
Oh yeah, okay. So obviously I've not really read into this at all. I haven't watched anything about it, even though I know a lot's been peddled. But like, I know you've listened to stuff kind of explaining it, and obviously you have a background in the military, so unpack the failings of from the perspective of the Secret Service of the Trump assassination.
Yeah, so obviously I've been in the military, I haven't been on those details, or I'm not quite like...
You have more experience with firearms than I do.
I have more kind of context than most, but...
Right, so the shot then, let's start with that, because you have a lot of experience on kind of like ranges and firing weapons.
150 yards is fuck all. I don't know what the weapon was, to be honest. I think it's an AR-15.
So we assume it's kind of like an AR-15 or something.
So, yeah, they're effective up to like 300 minimum metres. So,
and he had a rangefinder as well.
He had a rangefinder.
Because the Secret Service were watching him use it.
I don't know whether he had a scope, but even if he didn't, iron sights would be absolutely fine over that distance. But, I mean, you think about... So, if he wasn't flapping, which I think he would have been, I'll take this back in a minute, but... If he was just able to lock on, that first shot should have 100% been, because the head is quite a big target. Most people
anywhere down the midline, he's going down.
Well, most people who are half decent can get a half decent grouping in the prone at 150 meters, 100 meters ish, which is like this much, which is like a 2-inch grouping, which would be fucking temple.
Yeah.
To not be able to hit a big, huge fucking Donald Trump head is a bit mental.
And he has got a big head.
He has got a big head.
I was coming from someone with an equally big head.
Both figuratively and
they call me Sniper's Dream.
But I don't know why he isn't just aim for the fucking chest. The shoulder's obviously a big, massive target, but why not just aim for the... Maybe he thinks he's wearing body armor or whatever, but the fact he's aiming for the head is a bit mental.
Well, this comes back to the fact that he probably wasn't the best individual for the job, was he?
No, I mean, maybe you should aim for the head in that situation, who knows, but if I'm thinking about an 80-year-old who I'm going to now shoot in the chest, he's not recovering from that.
Anything. Shoot him in the arm.
Well, he is fucked.
Just hit him.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically,
yeah.
I mean,
just
like
hit the target.
Yeah, the fucking barrier to entry is quite low.
I think so, because he's not healthy or like strong or physically whatever. So surely you just hit him, he's fine.
He's not like 50 Cent, you know, when they sprayed him with bullets and his muscle mass saved him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not like that, is it?
So that's the first shot. I don't know why he hasn't better placed that. And I guess obviously there's been loads of analysis as to whether when he like turned his head, if he hadn't have done that, he would have hit him. So maybe the shot wasn't that bad. But then you've got the other 7 shots that rang out, which I don't know where they went, because they were nowhere near him.
Well, one of them hit a fucking random person.
Well, some geezer was covering his family, and he died.
That's peak.
And then some other guy got shot as well. But yeah.
So what from what it sounds like from the footage that I've seen, like he gets the initial shot away that was like the banker.
That was
as Gary Neville would say.
Yeah.
And then. In a panic, realising that he's missed, he's just fucking got off a few more rounds.
I think he just panicked then.
Before he's then immediately sniped, effectively.
Yeah, I mean, not really immediately, which is mad. The fact he's about to get 8 shots is fucking wild.
Yeah.
That takes at least 5 seconds, maybe, depending on whatever.
But like, to say that, like, he wasn't even, like, I don't know, again, I don't know what the term is, sighted by the sniper or whatever.
I think he was. I think they were watching, they had him. I think they had him in their sights or whatever, and then you see the sniper.
But he looks up and then look.
Yeah, he comes off his glass and then goes back in,
and then immediately takes a shot. That's quite cool, to be fair.
Oh yeah,
I mean, look, it's a massive failure on his part for not killing him.
I think it's whether he was told to take the shot or told not to.
I guess it's probably not his decision, is it? He's probably.
I don't know. I don't know, but I would imagine that he's probably told if there's an immediate threat, neutralise it. I would imagine, because that's what you would be told on like a standard set of rules of engagement. If there's someone who's immediate threat to life, then you can take the shot, and you don't have to ask for permission or anything like that. That's your prerogative.
He's pretty Gucci though that he comes up from his sight or whatever, and then like when he realises he needs to take the shot, he's like, it's if like the muscle memory there is amazing. Like he doesn't even really set himself.
Oh,
like
no.
he looks and just immediately.
Well, also
like,
you got to think as well. Those will be like top
Yeah.
0.5% of the snipers in America. And it's 150 yards. They could no scope that.
They're
they could
like,
probably hit him with a pistol.
They're in like you said, the top like percent of sharpshooters in America, and there are a lot of sharpshooters in America.
Exactly.
It's not like the UK where it's
No.
kind of like slim pickings. Like it's basically limited to kind of like military and like
Fanatics.
like armed response police units. Like that, every man and his dog's got a gun in America. So to be the best shot in that pool of individuals is quite impressive.
So they will be awesome shots, and they'll be and I don't know what went wrong with their actual kind of maybe communication or whatever that caused that delay. But the interesting thing is, so I don't know whether you've heard this bit. So the shooter is kind of crawling up this rooftop where he took the
it's
shot.
like a single story like garage, isn't it? Really,
Something like that.
it's not that
It's
hard.
sloped away, so he could like perfect peek over the
Yeah.
top, and he's not going to be seen until he peeks over the top. Anyway, he's crawling up, and the public have alerted the police right before. This is ages before, like 20 minutes before.
There's just like Republican supporters just like on the tinnies.
Yeah,
just like
shit. He's a geezer there with a
he's
gun,
like
mate.
five beers deep, and he's like, mate, even there's someone on the roof there with an AR-15.
Yeah, you probably want to have a look at that, mate.
Yeah.
And anyway, this copper climbs up. He's just general PD. Climbs up the ladder, pokes his head over, sees the guy. This is like 4 or 5 minutes before. Sees the geezer, and the guy just swings around with the weapon and points it at him. So then he like cowers away and obviously doesn't do anything. Must have then called it in, obviously. So they 100% know about that.
Yeah, there's a bloke with an assault rifle on the roof here, mate.
Yeah,
you might want to do
I
something.
want to scope him a little bit. Yeah. Like, so there's 100%. That sniper will know that guy's there. And also, I mean, they were doing an analysis of it. Like, before you were to do a security detail on anything, you would have a map of the area. So you would figure out where the fucking threats are.
Yeah.
Towers over there. Okay, roof over there. Whatever. A roof with a clear line of sight that's like angled away immediately flags up.
Yeah.
So you either station someone on it or the fucking counter sniper's like looking at it. You know,
It's crazy,
so it's
and like you
mental.
said, it's only 150 yards or whatever.
It's fuck up.
So it's like it would be in the immediate kind of like sphere of interest, wouldn't it? Of like potential.
Yeah,
kind
and
of, like,
even like a cordon would be probably more than that typically.
Yeah.
So you would have cleared that area, and the fact that again, like 4 or 5 minutes before he actually took the first shot, this geezer who's a policeman has seen it, would have called it into someone. And there's so many kind of failings here, but
Well, we just have to be Well, I guess we have to be thankful that the bloke was basically inept, because like I mean the shot that Lee Harvey Oswald took to kill JFK, by all accounts, was a lot harder. But he had a military background, and he was a sharpshooter.
yeah.
So you can only be
This
thankful.
geezer was 20 years old.
and a gimp by the sound of
By
it.
the looks of it.
By the looks of it. But did you hear what the fucking? Well, I mean, this comes from an unhonourable resource, one of our mates who's in the call. But obviously, because he's kind of interested in all that kind of, for lack of a phrase, kind of like gory shit. The way that they killed that guy, I forgot what the term is. There's a technical term for it. It's basically where you like shoot them from like underneath the chin, so their fucking brain explodes. Apparently,
really?
they did that to him to like.
What? Purposely?
Yeah, I think so. So the photo got leaked.
Mad.
But you know, like it's just, I think you do it in
A
like,
humane way. Okay.
No. So like they killed him,
I
but then
see, I
like
see.
you do it on targets to make sure that they're dead. It's probably
dead
is that it? Where it's like that, and then their fucking brain explodes.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that they did that.
Probably.
And he was loving that. I just thought, well, that's kind of like very different priorities here.
Yeah, so I mean, again, looking at like the Secret Service stuff is just mental. Like the fact that one of the women couldn't get a fucking weapon back in her holster, and it's like that just shows such a level of ineptitude. It's insane. One of that you said where, you know, he comes up and sort of gives the fist bump. That should never be happening. Like
No.
those 6 fucking Secret Service agents should be strong enough to keep the cunt down, and also to cover him when he does stand up.
Well, they obviously are stronger, aren't they? They've let it happen. There's no way that like 6 kind of like
I don't know if they
Secret
have.
Service agents kind of at the top of their field, so to speak.
But
could be
this is the
overpowered
argument
by
that maybe they're not. So there was two females there. One of
Yeah.
them was out of shape. One of them was like 5'4". Like,
And
Trump's a big dude.
well, also you could argue that the best are actually with Joe Biden because he's actually the president.
Yeah,
so he's more
true.
of a priority.
True.
So they're the second-rate ones.
Yeah, but I mean, even second rate, like they should be.
Oh yeah, they should be more than capable to spot a bloke who's already been sighted with a weapon on a fucking roof 150 yards.
They should be able to do that. There's a couple of things. Like there was an initiative like 3 years ago or something to equal men and women in the Secret Service. So they wanted to get 30% women in the Secret Service. So now they're saying whether and the pass marks. You know, we always talk about equal pass marks for men and women.
Yeah,
They're not. So
Ooh.
there's a drop down level, like a scaled version almost in terms of what they have to achieve and like the physical stuff. And like again, it's obviously like we said before, it's not about being a man or a woman. It's about can you do the
can
job?
you pass the standards?
And if one of your jobs is to shield the thing, and those the guys that are like immediately around him, that is their job. They're meat shields, like you said.
Yeah.
If you're 5'4" and your principal is 6'5", that just doesn't work. Whether you're a man or a woman.
Well, it's like you said, it's got to
Mental.
be the ultimate meritocracy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think we clipped it up in the past,
Yeah,
didn't we?
we did,
Because like the example that you used is like if you're in the Marines and you've got to kind of like casualty evac someone who's like 100 kilos.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're, 80 kilos. It doesn't cut it if you can say, oh, well, I only passed the scaled version of
Correct,
this test
yeah.
in training. Like, you've got to get him out of there.
Oh, that's effectively
like,
what they had to do, isn't it? They had to get him from point A to point B and they couldn't do it. And part of the reason was two of those fucking people were weak and not strong enough to do it. And there's another photo, which is hilarious, where they have a separate kind of branch, I guess, that are like the fucking hunters. That when in this event, when they have covered the president and now they're like hunting for second shooters or whatever.
Yeah.
And these three guys come out with their weapons up on ready and they're fucking scanning and searching. They're trying to notice things. And there's a photo when they're about to get up on stage to get a little bit of vantage point. There's a woman who's with them who's trying to do the same thing. And she's hiding behind the stage, right? And then about 10 seconds later, they're up on the stage by that point, and she's still hiding behind the stage with a weapon down. It's fucking so damning, mate. And I was like, this is insane. And so there's been a big uproar about that, like Secret Service recruitment being almost positive discrimination rather than actually meritocracy. But yeah, it's very interesting. There's so much going on.
And then Donald Trump's almost kind of nailed on to be the new president of the United States now. And the Democrats have to replace Biden.
Yeah.
Because they're going to lose because they're going to basically, if they keep him and they let him run, they're going to lose. So you might as well change him.
Well, they've pledged not to. No.
Right, well, you've just lost it.
They have just like accepted now that they're going to lose it, which is mad. A cold snap could take out Biden.
It could take out both of them.
I know.
It's so mental, the fact that Trump looks like he's in a position of strength because he's fucking running against someone who is literally senile and decrepit.
I know, pensioner.
It's mental.
He qualified for his pension like 15 years ago.
It's mental. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting for the UK as well, actually, what a Trump administration would mean for kind of like
a Labour government as well. It's
for a Labour government, yeah. So they've been very transparent, actually, Labour, and said that we'll work with whoever's in the White House, basically, which you kind of have to be because one of you has to be one of you has to be grown up in the situation.
Yeah.
But the I don't know if you've seen, but the guy that Trump's chosen as his kind of like running partner, what's he called, like JP Vance or something? He's a fucking gobshite, basically. But he came out and said that Labour. The UK is now the first Islamist nation with nuclear weapons.
That's good.
That's good. We thought it might be Iran or or Iraq. No, it's the UK because Labour have got in. Which again, he's like, and he's going to be the VP of the most powerful nation on earth, and he thinks that the UK is Islamist now.
That's good. We are leaning heavily right, aren't we?
It's so stupid. But anyway, so like. My prediction, anyway, as a little geopolitical womble that I am, is that because Trump and this gobshite are at best completely indifferent towards Russia and Ukraine, it's going to force the UK to get a lot closer to Europe because, we'll have to, basically, because I think that Trump and Trump's administration, like if you look back at these previous 4 years in the White House, are very isolationist.
Yeah.
So they're already
Cut everyone
talking
off.
about putting kind of like, I don't know, like, I forgot what it was, like 60% tariffs on Chinese imports and then like 10% tariffs on imports from everywhere else in the world. So from a trade perspective and a geopolitical perspective, we're going to have to look back to Europe, which is going to annoy the Brexiteers, but, you know, which is ironic because they all support Trump.
Yeah, in a roundabout way.
In a roundabout way, he's actually the archetype of their own downfall.
Yeah.
So I think that if Trump gets in, the US are going to try and pull out of any kind of like aid or support
agreement
package to Ukraine. So that's going to have to force us and the other members of NATO to pump more into Ukraine, because otherwise they won't be able to support themselves. And trade and economically, we'll also have to look back to Europe, because this magical kind of trade deal with America that we were promised by Farage isn't going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
Because Trump's whole thing is that he's going to make America great again, and the way he seems to go about doing that is very isolationist trade policy, where you basically charge anyone to import stuff from other nations in order to kind of like protect American manufacturing from outsourcing, basically.
Yeah, but it's just I guess we will see whether that has a knock-on effect with us. But
so what I'm trying to say is that I think Trump getting back into the White House will force us to rejoin the customs union in the long term. That's my prediction.
Which is actually a good thing.
Which is a good, and again, like Brexiteers are going, oh no, we voted to leave. But actually, you know, if you want to be richer, and face it, who doesn't want to be better off? Then that is the answer.
Yeah, we'll trade with more people. Don't cut the fucking biggest one off, which is mental. But yeah, anyway, we shall move on from Trump.
Well, yeah, we've done 45 minutes on
Trump and
that
Euros.
now. We've got 2 more to get through.
We'll rattle through these.
Which, to be honest, aren't as exciting, so we will rattle through them.
Yeah.
So
simple pleasures.
This is my idea of a very nice day out.
Right, so we've titled this Unexpected Dogging, which
It's not what you think.
It's not what you think.
No.
This is quite literally when you go somewhere and you're not expecting to, but you get to pet a dog.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. And like you say, what you said before, you get all the good parts of having a dog without all the admin.
Yeah, it's perfect. So this is me. This is where I stand on dogs, basically, because I've never, not literally standing on dogs, but but I've never owned a dog. I've never had like a family pet or anything, which is a dog. But I do like dogs. So this is where I stand, basically. So it's like whenever you go to someone's gaff or something, or like you go to a cafe and there's a little good boy to pet, then that's great, because you're his best mate then, you know, for as long as you're together. But you don't have to deal with any of the shit admin of dog ownership. So like, if you're there playing with him and he does a shit,
it's not your problem.
It's not your problem.
Be like renting.
Someone comes in, cleans the shit away, and then you just carry on playing with him.
Yeah. It's a bit like renting your house, isn't it?
Yeah.
Boiler break's not my issue.
Not my, yeah. But it's like you don't, but the good thing about this is that you don't have to pay for that privilege.
True.
It's free.
Yeah. It's free and it's wholesome. No, it was good actually when we were in Austin, because obviously we didn't have our own dog. But going to that Zilker Park, and there was like fucking hundreds of these massive huskies and shit.
Yeah, it was like the
class.
designated dog walking
park.
park.
Yeah, because there's
in Texas,
only
wasn't
one
it?
place.
Yeah.
So that was sick. But yeah, I'd agree, and it's always a good hit of serotonin when you get
little serotonin when you get a little good boy in
Yeah.
like a coffee shop or something. And the good thing is, if you're in a coffee shop, you're getting good coffee as well. So it's like double bubble, isn't it?
double wholesome vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. So unexpected dogging, simple pleasure.
And then also a dogging's great as well. But that's for another time.
Yeah, that's my next simple pleasure.
Right then, pet peeves.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
I was going to do business jargon. I want to open it up
the floor
to kind of general gatekeeping jargon. So this is in any walk of life where you speak to someone who's got more expertise in an area. If they're a subject
or
matter,
just more experience.
yeah, if they're an SME,
Yeah,
they're a subject matter expert.
that was one.
Yeah. I've fallen foul
on
of
your
mine.
own sword.
Seriously, it's hard though, isn't it? Because But this, yeah, but so yeah, well, it's a perfect example, kind of unintentionally. So if you're a subject matter expert in something and you're talking to someone who's kind of like, for lack of a better phrase, kind of a layman, if you kind of deliberately use wanky jargon to confuse them, and almost it's like a flex, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's trying to flex your intellect and expertise.
And there's a time and a place for it, I guess, because if you're in a job interview or you're in a position where you want to impress someone, then that's fine. But I'm talking day to day where you're just literally like having a conversation with a mate. And you're using this language basically just to be a bit wanky.
Yeah.
There's no time or place for that.
What are the business ones? Because they probably just fall into my fucking...
You're bad for the business
Well,
ones. Since you've had like a business coach,
mentor. Yeah.
It's what is it? It's like back end.
Yeah. That's just the name for it.
Churn.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else you'd call it. If you are talking about those things.
But they're normalised to me now as well because you use them so much. But to everyone else, they don't have a fucking clue what it means.
No, it's true. And it does just make you sound like you know what you're doing.
This is the thing.
And you don't.
So I think at the heart of my frustration with this is that you're basically papering over the cracks. It creates the illusion of competence, doesn't it?
I think a lot of language does that though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think
that's
what language is for.
What the true mark of kind of like a good communicator or someone who is competent in an area is them being able to communicate in layman's terms.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
so look, I'm not saying that this is always the case, but a lot of the time people feel the need to hide behind kind of jargon to mask their own kind of in lack of competence.
Yeah.
So
yeah, maybe.
I think that's where I'm getting at with this because
I think
it's people that use jargon as a gatekeeping tool to
make themselves seem smarter than they are, isn't it?
Make themselves seem smarter than they actually are.
I think there's a balance a little bit, but I think just being an effective communicator is speaking with precision.
Yeah, and clarity, but part of that comes you've got to use language that can people understand.
Yeah, you have, but how much of that is on the other individual? No, I'm not talking about maybe gatekeeping stuff, but you think about bigger words, for example, being more articulate or making an effort to be more articulate. How much of the understanding burden is on the other person rather than you having to dumb things down for them? You know
this part of effective communication, now you've got to know your audience, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got to convey that message to whoever needs to hear it. I think there's
got to be a little bit on the other person though to be able to understand it. If you're listening to Rory Sutherland and you can't understand him, that's your fault. It's not his fault for being fucking clever.
Well, it depends though, because if he's trying to communicate with you, then it is his fault. So if he goes on a podcast and he's trying to explain a concept, but he's doing it in a language that not many people can understand,
but that's just how he talks because he's articulate. He doesn't probably know any other way to talk.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's more on the other individual to go, oh well, I need to upscale my fucking ability to understand this language and this vocabulary, rather than. Because if we did that, it becomes a race to the bottom. Then
but we know the whole kind of like individual responsibility thing now is just flawed, isn't it? Because we look at kind of
I don't think
we look at public health, but it is like we know people can do it, but ultimately they aren't, and it's getting to the point where they would literally die. They would rather die from preventable diseases than actually have the individual responsibility to change the way that they eat, sleep, move.
But that is still an individual responsibility thing. No one can do it for them. You can help them. You can do. There's obviously an element of both, and that makes sense. There's there's a little bit of community action. Society has a role to play. Businesses have a role to play. Whatever. But fundamentally, if we're talking about health, which is a good example of it, it is that person's job, and no one can sleep better for you. No one can eat better for you. No one can do the work in the gym for you. There isn't always an element of personal responsibility, regardless, always.
I know, but like I'm not saying that obviously, but I'm saying it's flawed.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not a.
But I know that no one can do the work for you, but what I'm saying is like they still won't do the work, and in the same way that like it probably is on them to fucking read a thesaurus, but they won't.
Well, yeah, but
ultimately, will they? Because if you can't get them to fucking move, you're not going to get them to trawl through a thesaurus before bed, are you?
True. But, it's not even... It's just... it can be just listening to people who are more articulate than you and
People
upskilling
people
yourself
haven't
in
got
that
time
way.
to
they
enlighten
have.
themselves because they've got
TikTok to scroll
they've got
through
4
and-
hours of TikTok scrolling. They've got to rot
Netflix to what?
They've got to rot in their pit for a bit. They've got to drive to Mackey's and get a drive through. That takes.
Yeah, but that's
best
bollocks.
part.
I think I always think that, like, obviously these things are maybe true, and there's a different. I heard this actually the other day. There's a difference I think between, and I agreed with it. I don't know whether you will, but between beliefs that are true and useful. So there might be a narrative or a belief that is fundamentally not 100% accurate. Maybe believing it is a useful thing, and the opposite can be true as well. Whereas something that isn't that empowering but is just true, like you're saying, personal responsibility isn't maybe the reason for, or isn't the number one thing to look at in regards to health or intellectual whatever. Like, believing that probably is true because there's obviously an element of other things at play, but I don't think believing that is very useful. That's the difference for me, I think. And I always try and just err on the side of what's useful for me and what actually gives me the power and gives me the control over things versus actually what's maybe true but not very useful. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, I think obviously. I don't. But yeah, so going back to fucking gatekeeping jargon.
One tangent there.
What a tangent. Yeah, I think it's obviously depends on the individual, but you know when it happens because you'll
be able to spot it.
You can see these individuals a mile off,
Smell it.
and they're ultimately normally charlatans.
Normally, because they're trying to hide behind this sort of thing.
The kind of veil of intellect that they've created for
They've
themselves.
constructed. A lot of people, and I probably fall into this, I think everyone does really, a lot of people have, and we talked about this before, like vocabulary they like to lean on.
Yeah.
It's like strong words that they use a lot, and maybe if you were to talk to them once, you would think, oh, this person's really, really articulate, knows what they're talking about, has like this good way about them. If you listen to them like 200 times and you listen to 100 things the same, it's
they're
like,
a bit of a
well,
one trick. Well, people
maybe.
that like the regular listeners of this podcast will know all the words that we like to use.
yeah.
That we don't. It doesn't even register with us.
No.
Because it's kind of like subconscious.
Yeah.
But there are certain words that we definitely lean on.
100%, yeah, exactly.
They'll probably jar people out.
Yeah.
Because we'll...
And a more articulate individual or someone who's a bit better at those sorts of things, at communicating, would not fall into those patterns quite as much. I still think there are patterns you'd fall into, but maybe they're not as frequent.
Yeah.
The more articulate you get. But that's a journey, innit? That's kind of what we're here for.
Yeah.
Anyway, gatekeeping jargon.
Yeah, I was going to add something then, but I've forgotten. But we'll leave it now because we've gobbed off long enough.
There we go. Yeah, so I mean, a segment episode.
A lot of shit thrown at the wall again
kept
there.
Up to date. Very sporadic, that one. Very, very flexible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is going to come out on Monday. And then the following week, you can expect a bit of a preview to the Olympic Games, which hasn't had any coverage in the UK, really.
Because of the Euros and Wimbledon.
Yeah, and the current affairs with kind of Trump and new Labour government. It's gone very much under the radar. So you will get that the following Monday after the Games has already been underway for a few days, but it'll still be fresh in everyone's memory, so it'll be worthwhile you listening to it.
Yeah. And imagine how annoying it is for training for 4 years for Olympics.
And no one
gives a shit.
Yeah, it could be worse when it was like amateur back in the day.
True.
But yeah, so look forward to that next week when I'll give you a crash course in the Olympics.
And it is warm in here, so we're going to ventilate.
It is warm as well.
So